Good evening, dear students. How are you doing? Welcome back. Can you hear me? Let me know, please.
Good evening, teacher.
Good evening,
Yes.
my dear Adele. Okay, thank you so much. Please open up your book on page number 83, please. 83. We're gonna complete the listening task that we were about to work in the previous lesson. The multiple matching. Then let's get started because we have to. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so please, page 83, please. Remember that you will hear that you have to decide what is the speaker that mentioned every single statement. And there is always in this kind of exercise 3 extra letters that you don't need to use, that they are not necessary to use. Okay? So I'm gonna play the audio twice and then we compare the answers. Let me know please if all of you are ready to start. Are you?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna play the audio right now.
You will hear 5 short extracts in which people are talking about problems in their relationships with other people. For questions 1 to 5, choose from the list, A to H, what each speaker says was the cause of the problem. Use the letters only once. There are 3 extra letters which you do not need to use. Speaker 1.
Before Paul started school, he used to come round to us every morning while his mother, Linda, my daughter-in-law, was at work. He had almost limitless energy, and at times he was rather difficult to control. We only had to look after him for 4 hours each day, but it completely wore us out. His mother would tell us off for letting him watch too much television. She said Paul needed to work his energy off in the park or on long walks. Easy for her to say, but we weren't getting any younger, and watching television was a useful survival strategy. I remember arguing with Linda on more than one occasion about this.
Speaker 2.
I shared a flat once with someone who used to get annoyed about the silliest of things. We got on fine at the beginning, probably because we hardly ever saw each other. He had an evening job in a bar and I worked during the day in a supermarket. When I got to know him better though, I realised just how difficult he could be. Things had to be done his way and his way alone. He was obsessive about tidiness and he couldn't bear it if I left anything lying on the floor. He'd also tell me off for cooking food that made the house smell. I had to move out in the end, I couldn't stand it.
Speaker 3.
Julie was a friend as well as a colleague. I looked up to her and admired her self-belief and quiet determination. It came as no surprise when she was promoted to senior manager and I wasn't. I didn't think it was unfair or anything. She deserved it. Of course I was disappointed, but I got over it quickly enough. But Julie was now my boss, and it soon became clear that she wasn't good at managing people. She bullied and shouted and upset most people in the department, including me. To her credit, she realised she wasn't suited to the job and she asked for a transfer. But I haven't spoken to her since she left.
Speaker 4.
My brother Phil and I always used to get on very well, despite having very different ideas and opinions about things. Recently, though, something's come between us that's changed all that. The money we inherited from our grandmother wasn't divided equally between us. She left me more because I'm married with 2 children and Phil's single. At least that's what she said in her will. Understandably, I suppose, Phil thinks it's a bit unfair and feels hard done by. We haven't exactly fallen out with each other, but there's certainly a tension between us that wasn't there before.
Speaker 5.
We split up around about this time last year, just before he went off to India. I'd always been very tolerant and understanding. I knew how much John's work meant to him, and I'd put up with the situation for as long as I could. But we both realised these long periods of separation weren't good for the relationship. Not being able to make any plans for the future inevitably caused friction, so we decided to end it. We still see each other from time to time, and it's good because there's not the same tension between us that there used to be.
You will hear 5 short extracts in which people are talking about problems in their relationships with other people. For questions 1 to 5, choose from the list, A to H, what each speaker says was the cause of the problem. Use the letters only once. There are 3 extra letters which you do not need to use. Speaker 1.
Before Paul started school, he used to come round to us every morning while his mother, Linda, my daughter-in-law, was at work. He had almost limitless energy, and at times he was rather difficult to control. We only had to look after him for 4 hours each day, but it completely wore us out. His mother would tell us off for letting him watch too much television. She said Paul needed to work his energy off in the park or on long walks. Easy for her to say, but we weren't getting any younger, and watching television was a useful survival strategy. I remember arguing with Linda on more than one occasion about this.
Speaker 2.
I shared a flat once with someone who used to get annoyed about the silliest of things. We got on fine at the beginning, probably because we hardly ever saw each other. He had an evening job in a bar and I worked during the day in a supermarket. When I got to know him better though, I realised just how difficult he could be. Things had to be done his way and his way alone. He was obsessive about tidiness and he couldn't bear it if I left anything lying on the floor. He'd also tell me off for cooking food that made the house smell. I had to move out in the end, I couldn't stand it.
Speaker 3.
Julie was a friend as well as a colleague. I looked up to her and admired her self-belief and quiet determination. It came as no surprise when she was promoted to senior manager and I wasn't. I didn't think it was unfair or anything. She deserved it. Of course I was disappointed, but I got over it quickly enough. But Julie was now my boss, and it soon became clear that she wasn't good at managing people. She bullied and shouted and upset most people in the department, including me. To her credit, she realised she wasn't suited to the job and she asked for a transfer. But I haven't spoken to her since she left.
Speaker 4.
My brother Phil and I always used to get on very well, despite having very different ideas and opinions about things. Recently, though, something's come between us that's changed all that. The money we inherited from our grandmother wasn't divided equally between us. She left me more because I'm married with 2 children and Phil's single. At least that's what she said in her will. Understandably, I suppose, Phil thinks it's a bit unfair and feels hard done by. We haven't exactly fallen out with each other, but there's certainly a tension between us that wasn't there before.
Speaker 5.
We split up around about this time last year, just before he went off to India. I'd always been very tolerant and understanding. I knew how much John's work meant to him, and I'd put up with the situation for as long as I could. But we both realised these long periods of separation weren't good for the relationship. Not being able to make any plans for the future inevitably caused friction, so we decided to end it. We still see each other from time to time, and it's good because there's not the same tension between us that there used to be.
You will hear 5 short extracts.
Alright, let me show you the answers, okay? Speaker 1, letter C. Okay. Speaker 2, letter B. Speaker 3, letter F. Speaker 4, letter H. And speaker 5, letter E. Okay? there you are the answers. So we continue. I hope that most of you have got the most of the answers right. Okay. So now let's go over the defining relative clauses. As you know, a defining relative clause contains information that is essential for understanding the whole meaning of the sentence. But first, I would like to provide you with an explanation regarding this topic. Okay? This is a very clear chart in which is summarized what are the defining relative clauses. Okay? We divide this into categories. We have person, thing, possession, place, time, or reason. For people, we use who or that. For example, the man who or the man that normally comes to clean our windows is on holiday this month. Okay, so as you can see here, it is essential to put it here to write the defining relative clause in order to get the whole meaning of the sentence. Okay. Regarding things, we have to use which or that. There is only, as you can see here in example, there is only one clock which or that works properly in this flat. Okay. When it comes to possession, we have to use whose. For example, a widow is a woman whose husband has died. Okay. By the way, do you know what is the meaning of the relative clause whose? Who can tell me? Please. Anyone?
I know on Spanish. I can solve.
Yeah, for sure.
Cuyos.
Yes, it depends on if it is singular, either in singular, plural, and so on. Perfect. Thank you so much. When it comes to places, we use where. For example, we bought this table in the shop where some works. When it comes to time, we use when. For instance, here you have May is the month when most tourists visit the island. Okay. For reasons, regarding reasons, we use why. For example, this documentary explores the reasons why birds migrate. Okay. But there is more than that. Okay. The relative clauses identify as you know, a person, a thing, a place, or any other thing that you are talking about in the sentence. When it comes to defining relative clauses, no commas are required. No, either at the beginning or at the end of the sentence. That can be used instead of who for people and which for things. Okay, so when it comes to talk about people, we can replace who for that and which for that as well, for things. Whom, in this case, can be used, it is used in more formal contexts, and we use it instead of who when it is the object of a verb or comes after a preposition. It is more formal than who, as I told you. Okay, what is the meaning of whom? Who can tell me what is the meaning of this relative clause? Whom. It has three main meanings. Have you ever heard about this relative clause?
I remember in Spanish also,
Okay.
de quiénes o quiénes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. A quién, a quiénes, o a qué in some cases. Okay, for example, students for whom English is a second language should consider taking the course. Right? It's like that. Okay, I would like you to provide me with an example. Okay, one by one. Let's start with you, Adela, please.
By using whom?
Yes, using whom or for whom, as you can see here.
Let me think. I need
Okay.
time
I'm gonna
to
provide you with the
read.
1 minute so you can think about it. Okay. Try to think of a proper example, of a suitable example.
The parents for whom the meeting was like what is an appointed
Yeah, so an
um,
appointment.
yeah for whom the for I forget it, the parents for whom the appointment was made didn't assist.
Yes, perfect, like that. Okay, who wants to try next? Maybe Abigail? Can you help me out?
Okay, teachers for whom technology is something with them don't feel familiarized,
Okay.
need to take extra courses.
Okay, yes. You could say teachers for whom technology is something or is a tool that they are not get used to. Yeah, you can say like that. Okay, and maybe who else is here? Ariel, please.
Okay. It could be the person who have made extra hours will receive a bonus or
Yes,
something like that.
perfect. Camila, please. Your example, and then Pablo. Okay.
It will be the people whom IT is update. It's not necessary to make the renewal.
The renewal. Yes, perfect. Like that. Okay. And finally, Pablo, please.
Well, the people for whom think to love could be safe alive.
Yes. Okay. So it is clear, right? So we continue. The relative pronouns who. Okay, this is very important. The relative pronouns who, that, and which. They can be omitted if it is the object of the verb in the relative clause. For example, as you can see here, I am enjoying the book which or that you lend me. So if we don't write it, which or that, anyways we are going to get the meaning of the sentence, as you can see here. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you omit it or not. But watch out when it is the object of the verb in the relative clause. Only in that case. We continue. The relative pronouns in this case who, that, and which cannot be omitted, unlike the other one, if it is the subject of the verb in the relative clause. For example, that is the waiter who or that served us last time. In here, if we don't write who or that, it is like the sentence has no logical meaning, right? So it is necessary to put it here. Next. The relative adverb where, in this case, has the meaning of in or at which. For example, he lives above the shop where I work. Right? Can you get what is the meaning of this adverb verb in this case? In or at which? When it comes to talking about places, right? In this case, in Spanish, we have to say en el que, right? But when it comes to places. So I would like to hear from you one example, okay? Let me think. Let me see. Ariel, please, can you provide me with an example using a word?
Is using in at which, sorry.
Yes, with that context, with that meaning of in or in which or at which is the same.
Okay, so for example, it could be the place where. No, let me think.
Okay, take your time. Don't worry. If you're ready to go, let me know, please, your example.
It could be I remember well the place where I live. I live.
No, like that not. For example, you can say I was going around the time where I used to live when I was a child, and below or maybe next to a restaurant was the flat or the apartment or the house where I lived. It is something like
Oh,
this.
okay.
Okay. Next, who wants to try it?
It could be the place where used to work is too far from my house, or were too far from my house.
Mm, can you repeat it again?
The place where I used to work were too
Yes,
far from my
the
house.
place where I used to work. Perfect. The place where I used to work. Nice. Next, who wants to give it a go? Maybe Adela, Abigail, Paulo. Feel
Me.
free to do it. Okay.
Canada is a country where I wish to live.
Where I would like to live.
Where I would like to live.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Nice. So is missing Adela and Paulo, please. Feel free to do it whenever you want.
I studied in Monavi where I made a lot of friends.
Yes, it could be. It works. Okay. Finally.
I have this. I could say that is the academy where I used to work. I
That
used
is
to
the
work.
time where I just yes, perfect. Okay. That is the
And
context of
and
this.
the other one I have the. This is the book that I wanted to buy since 2 months ago.
Since 2 months. Okay. Yes, nice. Now let's go over another use. When, in this case, has the meaning of on or in which. It is very similar as it were, but when it comes to talking about time, it can be omitted or replaced by that only in the defining relative clauses, because later on I'm gonna show you the non-defining relative clauses as well. So you can see here an example. Do you remember that day when or that went to real and it snowed? Right? So one more time, please think of a proper example here. Let me know when you are ready, okay? Your examples.
Teacher, it could be
Okay.
we ate that day when, or that we met him.
We met him. Yes, it could be like that. Nice. Any other?
It will be I can't forget that day when my cat died.
When
Something like that.
Yes, perfect. When my cat died. Nice. Please give me your examples, the rest of you guys.
Teacher, I have a question. I don't
Okay.
understand very well the difference between this rule and the last one.
This rule and the last one. What do you mean?
And the difference between this rule and the last one, the relative adverb where it has the meaning in which and which. Why in this case we can omit and in the last one not?
Do you mean with why? With why or what do you mean? I don't get what you mean.
With this rule that we are doing right now, the example, and the another the
ones with
relative adverb where it has the meaning in at which.
Oh yeah, with a chart. With this one. Really? The difference between these
No, no.
ones?
The rule above, no, just above this one.
This one, the relative adverb word, has the meaning in and not which.
I don't understand the difference.
It is very easy because in here the meaning, the specific meaning of in or at which means en el cual. For example, he lives above the shop en la cual I work. You see? The other one is the same. Do you remember that day when we went to Real? Do you remember that day, el día en el que fuimos a Real? And it snowed. That
And
is.
just but I understand why we can omit in this one the relative clause.
So when do we use the relative clause? That's what you mean.
No, when is completely necessary and when is when we can omit it.
Oh yeah. It is necessary when, for example, the sentence has no logical meaning if you don't write it. For example, please Ariel, can you help me out reading the first one that is here in this side?
He, that's the waiter who served us last time.
Okay, what happens if I don't write who or that? It has logical meaning?
No.
No, right? That is why it is necessary. Okay, that is why. It's the same with the other ones. Because, for example, he says, he lives above the shop where I work, right? So it is necessary to put it to specify where was the place where you work. It's exactly the same with when and why. I don't know if
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. That's it. For example, my dear Ariel, can you help me out reading this one?
I'm enjoying the book which you lent me.
Okay. If we don't write which or that, it affects the meaning of the sentence. Does it affect it?
No.
No, right? You see? That is why. Okay? That is why we use it or not. So it depends on what is the subject or what is the object of the sentence. And if whether it has logical or no logical meaning. Okay? So let's go over why. In this case, why is exactly the same as in the previous ones. Why has the meaning of for which and can be omitted or replaced by that in the defining relative clauses. For example, the reason why, la razón por la cual, right? I'm phoning is to ask you for Tina's address. Okay? In this case, you can replace it by that as well. Why? For example, the reason that I am phoning is to ask you for Tina's address. Is it everything clear? Let me know, please.
Yes, I guess so.
Okay, I hope so. Because we're going to practice right now. Let's go back to the student's book and we're going to practice this part. Okay, so let's find out what is the relative clause that is missing here. Number one, the French island. And what do you think is the proper relative clause here? Napoleon Bonaparte was born.
Where?
Where? Perfect. Was born and largest town is Ajaccio. So what is the relative clause that best fits here?
Where?
Were right in the first one, but the next one, in largest town in Ajaccio. Do you remember what was the relative clause for possession?
Whom?
Whose. Yes. So the French island where Napoleon Bonaparte was born, in whose largest town is Ajaccio, right? That is. Number two. The Italian town is famous for its Leaning Tower.
In which?
Which or that? Any of those. Which or that. Okay. Number three. The former Hollywood actor became the fourth president of the United States of America in 1981.
That or who?
Who? Who or that? Any of those. Who or that? Either who or that. Perfect. Number four. The first book J.K. Rowling wrote for the Harry Potter series.
That.
Yes, the first book. That or which? Any of those. Number five. The English author wrote Animal Farm in 1984 and real name was Eric Arthur Blair. So the first book, we're talking about an object, a thing, showing it which or that. Okay, so the first book, that or which, he wrote for the Harry Potter series. Oh no, sorry, we're in 5, right? Yeah, the English author who wrote. Yes, sorry. And the other one.
Whose?
Whose, perfect. Whose real name was Eric Arthur Blair. Number 6. The musical film Emma Stone starred. Yes, that or which. In alongside with Ryan Gosling. In 4, she won an Oscar in 2017.
That?
We have 4. Do you remember 4? For which? For which? Por el cual. Right? So, for which she won an Oscar. Okay? Number 7. The celebration at the end of October during children in a number of countries dress up as creatures such as witches, ghosts, or zombies. So the celebration, we're talking like a thing, like an object, like a situation. During which? Durante la cual. Right? So the celebration at the end of October during which children dressed up in different costumes. Okay? Number 8. The English singer has had parts. Who? Yes, perfect. Who in the other one? Such as Castle on the Hill, Shape of You, and albums are named after mathematical symbols. One more time. We need the relative clause for possession. Whose, right? And whose albums are named after mathematical symbols. Okay? Those are the answers. Let me show you this. Okay. So we're going to put into practice this by practicing a little bit of speaking. So I'm gonna choose a person and you have to tell me, okay? You have to complete the statement with your own idea. A good friend is someone who... Abigail.
Told you the truth.
Continue, please. Try to add more details.
Okay. A good friend is someone who told you the truth even you don't want to listen this.
Okay, nice. Ariela, please. I don't like people that... Try to use as much as you can the relative clauses that we learned.
I don't like people that talk too much, but in a silly way, like saying things that are not comprehensible, or when they talk about gossips. That's why I maybe feel bored.
Okay. Camila, please. I would like to have a job which...
I would like to have a job which I have a good payment and also a good
And you enjoy it to the fullest, you can say. Enjoy it to the fullest. Disfrutarlo al
and
máximo,
just
right?
the fullest. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Who's missing here? Ariel. I will never forget a time when...
I never forget the time when I was university student and we have time to play soccer in 3 hours.
Okay, perfect. And finally, Paulo, please. I wouldn't like to live in a country where...
I would like to live in a country where make a lot of where I would like to live in a country where
You can say, for example, I wouldn't like to live in a country where I can't express myself as I am, for example. Something like that.
maybe where live a lot of people.
Okay, that is. Okay. So one more time, I ask you, do you have any aspect, something that you didn't get it at all regarding the final relative clauses? Please let me know. Because later on we're gonna go over the non-definite relative clauses. No? Okay, so we continue. So now let's go over, this is the multiple choice clause. Okay, you know what you have to do here. Okay, please help me out reading the first part. Ariel, please. If there are...
Okay. There are
And the,
enjoyable.
yeah,
Sorry?
the answer here is plenty, number 0. So there are plenty of reasons. It means that there are a lot of reasons, right? So please, there are plenty of reasons.
Okay. There are plenty of reasons why you might want to use one of the many friendships apps currently available.
Available, perfect. That is the answer. Available. Continue, please. You may, for example,
have moved to a new city where there is
nobody that you know. Absolutely, completely.
absolutely, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Is the answer.
Absolutely nobody you know.
Perhaps.
Perhaps you are the only single person in your room and you
And you good. That is
prefer?
the contraction of good, right?
Yes, prefer.
Good prefer or good or rather? What do you think?
Sorry, you would rather
Why?
go to. I don't remember exactly, but I remember when we use you would, it's better to use rather than prefer.
No. The reason is because in here we don't have to before go. Because it is would prefer to and would rather and then the verb without to. with the verb infinitive. Would rather go. But if for example, if the answer were prefer, we is missing here the preposition to before go, because it is always we would or I would prefer to. But as it is not here to, we have to use rather. That is why. Don't forget. Continue, please.
Okay. Go to a concert with someone that spent the evening at a dinner party with cozy couples. Or maybe you just want to.
You just want to widen your circle of friends, to rise, to grow, or to spread. Your circle of friends. Who can tell me? What do you think?
It could be rice. I'm not sure about this one.
Rice, not. It doesn't
Spread?
Spread is like esparcir, so it doesn't work here. In this case, is the verb widen, ampliar. Right? To widen your circle of friends. Friends you actually meet up with, as opposed to those you know online. For number 5. For despite, for instead, for unless, or for although. We might have hundred. Sorry.
For instance,
For instead, no. It is not for instance, no. So be careful with that. It is not for instance, it is instead. It is a different meaning. For instance means for example. What do you think is for despite, for instead, for unless, or for although? We may have hundreds of virtual friends. Many of us have just a handful of real life ones. I guess yes. I guess that you have never heard, but anyways. The meaning of this linking phrase for although means porque aunque. That is the meaning. Okay? So for although we might have hundreds of virtual friends, and so on. We continue, number 6. Whilst social media should arguably catch some of the blame for this, stand some of the blame for this, take some of the blame for this, or meet some of the blame for this. It is actually a fixed expression when it comes to blame.
I have a question. What is the meaning of whilst?
Whilst, meanwhile.
What?
Meanwhile or while is the same.
Ah.
Yes. So what do you think is number 6? To catch the blame, to stand the blame, to take the blame, or to meet the blame?
To take the blame?
Yes, to take the blame. Yes. Don't forget. To take the blame. Always. To take the blame for doing something. Number 7. Supposedly causing us to lose our ability to communicate face to face. There are other factors that we are working greater hours than ever before, farther hours, longer hours, or higher hours.
Be higher.
If we are talking hours about hours, it means that we are talking about time. So we need to use a phrase, a word that collocates here with time, because it says hours. Greater, not right. Farther, no, it is when we're talking about distance.
Longer.
Longer, perfect. So longer hours than ever before. And the last one. And we're also spending more time living alone, waiting marriage in favor of the single life, delaying marriage in favor of pausing marriage, or holding marriage in favor of the single life. What do you think? We need a phrase that expresses that we choose something or someone in favor of another one or over another one. Any idea?
Holding?
Holding marriage off? In favor of? No. In this case is the phrase delaying someone or something in favor of. Right? Preferir algo por sobre otra cosa. Delaying someone or something in favor of something else. Okay? Those are the answers. Okay, this is so important and it is a topic for debate. Who can tell me? Do you agree, guys, that social media is causing us to lose our ability to communicate face to face? Why or why not?
I think yes, because when we communicate with apps, it feels more confident and more comfortable than when you are face to face with another. Maybe for shy people, it could be better to communicate with an app and not with.
But don't you think that it could be harmful in some extent?
I think it could be helpful in some situation, but maybe it's using social media causing loss or ability to communicate. Maybe.
Okay.
Because I don't know how to say. Detrás de una pantalla se sienten más.
Behind a screen you feel more confident, right?
Right, but como a veces dicen cosas que no dirían si estuvieran de frente.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
A veces las personas detrás de una pantalla dicen cosas que no se atreverían a decir si estuvieran enfrente de la persona.
Oh yeah. So sometimes people just to say things that they shouldn't have to when they are in front of a person or face to face. Right? You can say like this, okay? Interesting. So let's move on because we have to make the most of the time and we're going to practice the reading part. This is the part 5, the multiple choice. This is the easiest part of the reading tasks, in which you have to decide what is the right answer, and the answers of every single paragraph are in the same order as the paragraphs are displayed on the reading. Okay, so let's find out. My dear Abigail, please, can you help me out reading the first paragraph? Clara and Sylvia, please.
Clara and Sylvia Petrosilio were 8 and 6 respectively when they moved into the house next door to ours one cold December morning. I watched from the warmth of our lawn as the sisters helped their parents carry a number of items into their new home from the family car. They worked in unison, each holding on to the same box or object, moving perfectly in step with one another towards the front door without ever exchanging a single word, like a well rehearsed dance too. They seemed an ease in each other's company, and I imagine they must spend a great deal of time together. I wasn't wrong.
I wasn't wrong. Perfect. Okay. So the paragraph, the question number 1 is going to be in this paragraph. Okay, so in this paragraph that Abigail has just read is the answer. So according to that, in the paragraph 1 says, what point does the writer make about the sisters in the first paragraph? So, and the choices are, they preferred not to speak to each other, the closeness of their relationship was apparent, they enjoyed doing the task they had been given, or maybe this was not the first time they had moved house. So what do you think is the answer?
Make the letter B.
Do you think it is the letter B? Yes, it is, actually. But why did you get that, Camila?
Because at the end of the paragraph, they mention they seemed at ease in each other's company, and I imagine they must spend a great deal of time.
Perfect, there was the answer, okay? Nice. So let's find out where is the paragraph, the answer number 2. Alila, please can you help me out reading the second paragraph, the second. At first,
I was reluctant to approach the sisters, whose expressionless face and wild, unruly hair did not particularly invite friendship over turns. And anyway, they preferred to stay in the house most of the time, so I would only really see them when Mr. Petrosoli bundled them into the car in the morning to take them to school. When the evenings grew lighter, they were persuaded to play outside, but to begin with, they seemed fearful of leaving the safety of their back garden, and shyly avoided eye contact with me as I watched them for my own.
from my own, perfect. Okay, so based on that, question number 2 says, in the second paragraph, the writer says that she was discouraged by Mr. Petrosillo from playing with the sisters, was not allowed to go next door to the sisters' house, was initially put off by the appearance of the sisters, or was nervous about inviting the sisters into her garden. A, B, C, or D?
Letter D.
Letter B or letter D?
D.
In this
Was
case,
nervous.
is letter, you will come as a surprise, is letter C. It's letter C. Why? Because in this part, let me show you right away. Let me see question number first. Okay, in this part, there it is. Whose expressionless faces and wild and really hurt didn't particularly invite friendly overtures, right? And that is why. And it says, was initially put off by the appearance of the sisters, by how they look like at that moment. Okay? Nice. The next paragraph, please. Ariel.
Eventually, though the sisters showed signs of coming out of their shells, they began to venture out into the park across the road, and I don't know how to pronounce that. I seized.
Let me see. Seized. To seized.
Okay, I seized on the opportunity to speak to them. They allowed me to join in their games, but they will converse together in earnest whispers, which made me feel excluded.
Excluded.
Okay, and they looked very little. To be honest, the only time they looked truly happy was when they were
On the roller skates.
Okay.
On the roller skates.
Roller skate.
Yes.
The roller skates. Sailing hand in hand down the road with Clara, who seemed more confident, shouting at the younger Sylvia to bend her knees or straighten
Yes.
her back. As for me, and despite my best effort, the Petrosillo sister never really allowed me to get close to them. They prefer to keep themselves to themselves and do everything together alone.
Okay, so they prefer to keep themselves to. Okay, perfect. So number 3. It says, what is meant by the phrase the sisters showed signs of coming out of their shells in the lines 20 and 21? Okay, in the lines 20 and 21. Because eventually, though, the sisters showed signs of coming out of their shells. They began to venture out into the park across the road and seized the opportunity. Seize the opportunity means to take advantage of the opportunity, if you don't know maybe. To speak to them, sorry. And they allowed me to join in their games. So, according to that, what do you think is the answer? A, B, C, or D? A. They looked older and more mature. They appeared to be growing in confidence. They made it clear that they wanted to play, or they indicated that they were allowed to leave their house.
Maybe letter B?
Yes, letter B. They appeared to be growing in confidence. They were getting more confident. Perfect. Thank you so much. Next. So this is the paragraph number 4. Until. Who's missing reading? I guess Paulo, right? Yes. Until.
Yes. Until, that is, Harvey Reynolds appeared on the scene. Clara's scene, she was 17 and House was 7 years old, with a car and a well-paid job in a life assurance
Perfect.
Assurance company. Sylvia appeared untroubled by this. Her face, at least, gave nothing away. But then it never did. Clearly,
though,
so it was
the beginning.
the beginning of a new reality. One which quickly drove the sister apart. And when Clara went off to study law a year later, the distance between them grew. Sylvia, who left school at 16, took a job as a gardener with the council, had her head shaved and acquired a large tattoo on her back. She continued to live with her parents. Meanwhile, Clara graduated and moved to London, where she eventually became a partner in an international law firm. My parents told me that sisters spent very little time together whenever Clara came to visit.
Nice, perfect. Thank you so much. So based on that, number 4 says, in the third paragraph, the writer says that the Petrosillo sisters refused to let her go roller skating with them, or maybe said some unpleasant things about her to each other, or maybe showed little interest in her attempts at friendship, or maybe deliberately tried to make her feel unwelcome.
Maybe letter C?
Yes, letter C is the answer. Okay, so we're working on the question number 4, and it was letter C. Okay. So please, Camila, can you help me out reading the next paragraph? One day last summer.
Sorry, I can. Yeah. One day last summer, Clara turned up driving a two-seater convertible. Convertible?
Yes.
The Patrocilo's house was up for sale, and she'd come to clear her old things out. I was back home as well, visiting my parents, and happened to be looking out of the lounge window, from where I could see Sylvia taking out the rubbish. When she saw her sister parking, Sylvia paused, although she might go out into the street to greet her. But then she turned around and went quickly back into the house.
Okay, so he went back into the house. So number 5, I guess. Yes. What does this refer to in line 36? The word "des" referred to the age difference between Harry and Clara, the fact that Harry was unsuccessful, the nature of Harry's work, or the fact that Clara had a boyfriend. In line 36, we have the word "des." Let me see. Where is it? Okay, it says Sylvia appeared untroubled by this. But what does this word refers to? This in here.
The fact that Clara had a boyfriend. No, the age difference between Harry and Clara.
No, you were right. The fact that Clara had a boyfriend. You were right. That was the answer. That is the answer, actually. Okay, nice. And finally, I'm gonna read it the next paragraph, the last paragraph. Then, one afternoon, I saw the sister sitting on the front doorstep. It would look like embarrassed silence, putting on their old roller skates. They skated slowly around the driveway, a few times before finally going out through the front gate. They exchanged an awkward glance, then moved off down the road, gradually gathering speed. At one point, Sylvia blowed, and it looked as if he was going to fall over. But Clara held out her hand, and Sylvia, after a brief hesitation, took it. As they skated on, it was for a moment as though nothing has changed, and the sisters were who they had once been before life came between them. So, number 6. When Clara returned to her parents' house last summer, the sisters appeared uncomfortable in each other's company, were noticeably less proficient at roller skating, were no longer on speaking terms with each other, or had thrown away their old possessions. A, B, C, or D? I'm gonna provide you with a clue. In this part is the answer. Sylvia paused as though she might go out into the street to greet her, but then she turned around and went quietly, back into the house. Then one afternoon, I saw the sister sitting on the front doorstep in what looked as like embarrassed silence. So what does it mean?
Letter C.
Any of you tell me letter A, right? Yes, that is the
Yes.
answer. Letter A. Appeared uncomfortable in each other's company. That is the answer. It is very clear here. Okay, so let's continue. And now, as I told you, we're going to go over the non-defining relative clauses. Okay, can you help me reading, please, Ariel, the first sentence from the Swedish sisters? Sylvia.
Yes. Sylvia, who left school at 16, took a job as a
Okay.
gardener?
Yes, as a gardener. This sentence, as you can see, contains two separate ideas by commas. Sylvia, there is a comma there, who left the school at 16. There is another comma there, took a job as a gardener. So the first idea is that Sylvia took a job as a gardener, right? And the other one is that Sylvia left the school at 16. The information that is contained in here, in the second idea, it is not essential for us to understand the whole meaning of the sentence, as you can see. A relative clause is which contains a non-essential information that is called a non-defining relative clause. Unlike the defining relative clauses, it was mandatory, it is necessary to write them in order to get the whole meaning of the sentence, and it has no logical meaning, right? But in this case, it doesn't matter if you write it or not, because we know that Sylvia took a job as a gardener, and the fact that she left school at 16 is not necessary, is irrelevant, okay? So let me show you a little bit of grammar of this part. Okay, here it is. Please feel free to ask me if you don't understand something, okay? The non-defining relative clauses contain information which are not essential, the information that is not essential for understanding the meaning of the whole sentence. We can identify which is the person, which is the thing, or maybe any other situation that is being talked about in the sentence without the information in the relative clause. For example, their new house, and this is the non-defining relative clause, which has 5 bedrooms in a games room, is much larger than their previous one. Okay, so it is not necessary to know that it has 5 bedrooms in a room for games. Okay, but in the non-defining relative clauses, commas are required, both at the beginning and at the end of the relative clause, except when the end of the relative clause is also the end of the sentence. In this case, we cannot do that. That, in this case, the clause that cannot be used in place of who or which. Okay, as you remember, in the defining relative clauses, we were allowed to use that instead of who, and that as well instead of which. In the non-defining relative clauses, we cannot do that. Okay, we're not allowed to. Okay, the first use. The relative pronouns and the relative adverbs cannot be omitted from non-defining relative clauses. For example, her maths teacher, who or whom everyone in the class adored, announced that he was leaving the school. As you can see here, this part is not necessary to write it or to analyze it in order to get what the sentence means, right? The non-defining relative clauses are more common in written English, okay? In this case, which can be used in a non-defining relative clauses to refer to the whole of the main clause. For example, no one found him on his birthday, which made him feel rather depressed. Okay? So as you can see here, we have some differences between the defining and the non-defining relative clauses. Please, I would like you to know the difference in terms of meaning between the following pair of sentences. Hospital doctors who work long hours are well paid. What does it mean? That all hospital doctors work long hours and all of them are well paid, right? It is a non-defining relative clause. But in a defining relative clause we have this. Hospital doctors who work long hours are well paid, right? So only those hospital doctors who work long hours are well paid. Can you see the importance of writing with a defining or non-defining relative clause? Okay, please. Ariel, please, can you help me out reading the next example? My sister
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Non-defining or defining? Sorry.
Both, please.
Or both. Okay.
Yes.
My sister, who lives in Rie, has
Yes.
2 sons. Equal.
It
I
means.
have no
It is what
sister.
it means, okay? It means
Okay.
that I have one sister, she lives in Ride, and she has 2 sons, right? It is the meaning of
Okay.
the non-defining. But let's go
And
over
this
the
one
defining.
defining, my sister who lives in Ray has 2 sons. Equal, I have more than one sister, that one who lives in Ray has 2 sons.
Okay. You see the importance of writing or not? Okay, this part, did you get it? Or not? Or there is something that it is not that clear for you?
I have a question. It's the
Okay.
same sentence, but the intention change if we add a colon?
Yes.
A comma? Sorry.
Yes. If you use the commas, it expresses something different. Okay? That is why it is necessary to differentiate between the non-defining and the defining relative clauses. Okay? Yes. So we have, according to this part, we have the relative clauses and the prepositions as well. We have 2 important aspects here. Number 1, prepositions usually come at the end of the defining relative clause, at the end of the defining or in the non-defining relative clauses. In defining relative clauses, the relative pronoun is usually omitted. For example, the town I grew up in has changed a lot since I left, right? So in this case, we omit the relative pronoun. Instead of saying in which, we can omit it. But in the non-defining relative clauses, the relative pronoun is never omitted. For example, Carol, who I used to work with, lives in Paris now. You see? We cannot omit it here in the non-defining, but in the defining we can do it. But only when it comes to the relative pronouns, okay? And what are the relative pronouns? Which, where, why, who, when, where. All of them are the relative pronouns, okay? Next, in more formal English, prepositions often come before the relative pronouns. Whom for people, and which for things. In which case the pronoun cannot be omitted. In this case, we shall be visiting the room in which Turner painted some of his greatest works. Or maybe the head waiter, the later waiter, to whom, right, we addressed our complaint was not particularly helpful. Okay? And this is all about non-defining relative clauses. Do you have any questions? Let me know please now, because we have to practice right now. Okay, let's sum it up. Let's recap. In non-defining relative clauses, letter A, who or which can or cannot be replaced by that. In the non-defining, we can or we cannot replace who or which.
Cannot.
Wait, okay. The relative pronoun can or cannot be omitted in the non-defining relative clauses.
Cannot, I think.
Yes, okay. Commas are or are not used to separate the relative clause from the rest of the sentence in the non-defining. Are perfect, okay. So let's go over this part. We have to complete the next gaps with the correct non-defining relative pronouns, either with a relative pronoun or a relative adverb, when or where, who, which, that, or whose. Okay. If there is more than one possibility, or the word can be left out, I mean empty, we should also indicate this. Okay. So you have to say no relative clause. Okay. How well do you know the people who or that live in the same street, or even the same block or flats as you? Perhaps like me, you live in a large city. It's easy to go unnoticed. What is the correct relative clause here?
Where?
Where. Perfect. where it is easy to go unnoticed and sometimes difficult to get to know even your closest neighbors. If you do, it is very likely there is a social media site can help. Which, perfect. Which can help. When I moved to the area in I currently live.
Where?
Do you think we have in?
In which?
In which, perfect. In which, en la cual, okay? In which I currently live, I signed up to a website. To a website, main aim is to bring. That? Are you sure? It says, I signed up to a website. Main aim is to bring communities together.
Which?
What was the relative clause for position?
Where?
Whose.
Oh.
I signed up to a website whose main objective or aim or goal is to bring communities together. Okay? That is why. To get people live in the same neighborhood, interacting more.
Who live?
Who, perfect. Who live in the same neighborhood, interacting more. Thanks to this website, has over 1,000 users in my part of the city alone. Which, perfect. Number 7. I found a neighbor I could go running with at weekends.
Who are that?
Who are that? Perfect. Who are that? I also got to know the recently retired owner of the local bookshop. Answered my request.
Who?
Who, perfect, because we are talking about the owner. Nice. Number 9. For someone to look after my dog last July. I turned 30 and had a holiday abroad to celebrate.
When?
When? Nice. You can also use this site to sell that bike you no longer ride. That or which, perfect. That or which you no longer ride. Advertise your services as a babysitter. Announce events are being held locally. We're talking about events here. Events are being held.
Where?
Which or that, because it is like an object. Announce events which are being held or that are being held locally. Or organize your own activities with other neighbors, like in museum trips or countryside walks. You're also encouraged to share your possessions, to lend people things like ladders or tools. Might be expensive to buy and used only very occasionally.
Which or that?
Yes, which it is which, okay? Those are the answers. Just in case, let me show you. There you are. Number 1 was where, number 2 which or that, number 3 which or whose, number 4 who or that, which, 7 who or that or maybe empty, number 8 who, number 9 when, number 10 which or that or maybe empty, number 11 which or that, and number 12 which. Okay, so let's get in ahead. Okay, before jumping right in, I would like you to go over the page number 2016. 2016, please. Sorry, 216, sorry. 116. I guess it is not the exact number as it is here. Yes, here it is. The page is 270. Okay, number 1. We have to complete the sentences using when, where, why, or whose. Okay, with the defining relative clauses. We go over first this. Number 1. What's the name of the place we had that accident last year? What do you think is when, where, why, or whose?
Where?
Where?
Yes. Number 2. One of the reasons.
Why?
Why? Perfect. Number 3. I will always remember that day I started my first job.
When?
When?
That's the woman husband just spoke to on the phone.
Whose?
Whose? Perfect. Okay. Nice. You have to help me out choosing what are the correct options. Number 1. Last summer I visited a friend. She, who, or empty, or where lives in New York.
Where?
Who lives? Perfect. Who lives in New York. Number 2. There is a new shop where empty water which I was telling you about.
What?
In this case we have two choices. Empty with any relative clause or which. Okay. So there is a new shop where which I was telling you about, or maybe I was just telling about. Okay. Number 3. The man whose empty or whose house we stayed in was the local mayor.
Whose?
Whose? Perfect. Number 4. I have had one of those days which, when or emptied out or that, everything goes wrong.
When?
When. Nice. Number 5. The village which or in which or where that she grew up is now abandoned.
I guess it could be true in which or where.
Yes, in which or where. Any of those are possible. The village in which or the village where. Number 6. Liam is finally doing a job that which empty or where he really enjoys. That or which it could be. Number 7. There's a person in our block of flats where which empty or who plays the violin.
Who?
Yes, who. And the next one. Name a song that empty, which, whose, or doesn't have the word love in its lyrics.
Which?
Which, perfect. Okay, that is. Let's go over the non-defining relative clauses. In this part, from 1 to 5, we have to link the ideas contained in the two sentences to form one sentence, to form only one. We have to use an appropriate relative pronoun, who, which, or whose, or a relative adverb, when or where, in order to make any other necessary changes. You don't have to forget to add commas if needed. As you can see here, an example. Main idea, this photograph shows the royal family on the palace balcony. The second idea is this photograph was taken in 1990. So this photograph, which was taken in 1990, shows the royal family on the palace balcony. Okay? So number 1. The main idea is we spent the weekend in New York. The second idea is my mother was born in New York. So how could it be the whole sentence?
We spent the weekend in New York where my mother was born.
Yes, where my mother was born. Okay? Next. Number 2. The main idea is my best friend has just got married. And the second idea is my best friend always said she wanted to stay single. So please, can you turn it out into a non-defined relative clause sentence?
It could be, for example, my best friend who always said
Yes.
she wanted to stay single has just got married.
Yes, perfect, just like that, okay? Number 3. The main idea is my oldest sister lives in Munich. The second idea is my oldest sister's husband is German.
My older sister who
Yes.
lives in Munich.
It's something like that. It is my oldest sister, whose husband is German, lives in Munich. Okay? That is whose husband. Number 4. The main idea is the best time to visit Iceland is in summer. The second idea is the average temperature in Iceland is summer is around 10 degrees. So we have something like this. The best time to visit Iceland is in summer. What is the relative clause that we need to use here?
When?
Yes, so the best time to visit Iceland is in summer, when the average temperature is around 10 degrees. Perfect. And let's get finished the lesson by doing the last one. The main idea, he has to work on Saturdays. The second idea, he isn't very happy about the fact that he has to work on Saturdays. So, how could it be? Any idea? I guess that it will come as a surprise to you. It is like this. He has to work on Saturdays, which, and there is a comma first, which he isn't very happy about. Okay? That is the relative clause. He has to work on Saturdays, which he isn't very happy about. Okay? So on a Thursday we continue practicing this part, okay? Number 2. So time is over, as you know. Please, let's turn on the cameras and then you can leave.
Teacher, my camera do not open.
Okay.
Don't open. Sorry.
Okay. So you can turn it on, don't worry. Okay, thank you so much, dear students, for being here. And I hope to see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
See
teacher.
you. Thank you so much.